Now to a stunning discovery at Harvard Law School. Back in 1946, the university bought what it thought to be a copy of the Magna Carta. Now, that's the royal charter limiting the King of England's power, written more than 800 years ago. It's often considered the earliest declaration of human rights and a foundational document. Now, Harvard paid just $27.50 for it. Let's fast forward to today. Professor David Carpenter of King's College London was looking for unofficial copies of the document. He stumbled upon the one Harvard bought and verified it was an original, not a copy, an original from 1300. And David Carpenter joins us now. Good to see you with a story that has just had us riveted all day. I have to ask, what was your first clue? It really has. It's really captured our imagination here. And I have to ask you, what was your first clue that this was not a copy? Because, I mean, apparently you just looked at the images online?
I absolutely did. I just looked at the images online. I clicked on Harvard Law School manuscript 172. It came up. I could hardly believe my eyes because I'm very familiar at looking at originals of Magna Carta, and I hardly believe my eyes. It seemed to me an absolutely stone cold, sober original of the 1300 Magna Carta. And then even more astonishing, I then thought, well, I wonder what Harvard Law School think it is. And I looked, and they seemed to think, as you just said, that it was just a later copy. And digging around by my friend and colleague, Professor Vincent of University of East Anglia, I mean, he was the person who discovered they paid $27.50 for it. So it's an extraordinary thing. I know you'll rightly say, I mean, its value, if it ever went for auction, which it never would do, but its value must be millions of dollars, I think. So it was an extraordinary thing.
That is not hyperbole in this situation, but how did you authenticate it, right? This can't just be a hunch. There was a process here.
Yeah, sure. That's a very good question because, of course, appearances can be very deceptive. So what we did was we divided responsibilities. Nicholas Vincent looked at where it came from, its provenance, and I looked at the document itself. And I think there are three things which persuaded me it was absolutely genuine. The first was its handwriting, and the handwriting is absolutely comparable to that found in the 6 previously known originals of 1300. Secondly, the size, absolutely comparable too. But the third most important test of all was the actual content, the text, because for the other 6 originals, they've all got exactly the same text, and it's actually a different text from earlier editions of Magna Carta. Now, if Harvard Law School's text didn't correspond to that of the other 6 originals, that was it. It wouldn't work. So what I did was, and I was helped here because it's not in all that good condition. And Harvard very, very wisely sent me special images, infrared images, spectral images. And so I worked through the Harvard text, word for word, back-breaking, eye-breaking work, comparing it to the authorized version. Jolly nerve-wracking, actually, because I kept thinking, oh, God, it's going to fail. But actually, no, it didn't. It was flying colors, and its text is virtually identical to that found in these 6 other originals. And that persuaded me more than anything else that this was absolutely genuine and authentic.
Wow, the tale is just as unbelievable. The process is just as unbelievable as the actual result here, the fact that it is an original. What did Harvard say when you told them?
Well, I think Harvard, first of all, were baffled about this. I think they were also quite reasonably a bit skeptical at first. But when Nick Vincent and I assembled the evidence, they then became very enthusiastic. They are very enthusiastic about it. And Professor Vincent and I are going out in June to celebrate it. It's going to be put on public display. I think I might say that I think it's absolutely right that Harvard Law School should have its own original of Magna Carta. It's only one other original of Magna Carta is actually in the US. And Harvard Law School is, after all, the great center of legal studies. So absolutely right that you should have one of the foundational documents asserting the rule of law.
Yeah, a lot could be said about how that relates to today's environment. I won't get you involved in politics here, though, as we're talking about history. I only have a few seconds left, but I want to ask you, we alluded to the price. It would likely be worth tens of millions, apparently, according to people who look at these kinds of documents. Not that it's ever going for sale, but can you confirm that it is likely priceless?
Yeah, I think that is probably about right. Certainly many millions, I think, if you were putting an estimate on it, if it ever went for auction.
Got you. Professor David Carpenter. Go ahead.
It makes it all more wonderful that Harvard got it for $27, as you've said.
Absolutely. An astounding story. Professor David Carpenter, thank you for bringing it to us. Really appreciate it.